Welcome to What's in the Box, episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. Obviously, Eric is not here, but I'm Donna. We are continuing our series of Texas AuthorCon interviews, and with us tonight we have Chris Miller. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just are getting to know all the authors that are going to be at Texas AuthorCon. So hopefully that'll drive some people towards your books. In the description of the episode, we'll have links to your Amazon page so that people can just click and go and check out your work.
Excellent.
So we have some fun questions to start off with. So the first question is, Jason, Michael, or Freddy, which one is your favorite?
Michael, hands down.
Really?
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Michael, or The Shape, as he was originally known in the first movie, is, to me, much scarier than Jason or Freddy. Freddy is over the top, funny. He has a big personality, and he has all these one-liners, and all that's great. It's fun to watch, but it doesn't really invoke a lot of fear out of me. It makes me just kind of feel like I'm here for a campy adventure story where somebody with razor fingers is chasing us around, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then with Jason, Jason is, in a lot of ways, I feel like sort of a ripoff of Michael. He came shortly after Michael, and they go a different direction with him, but he's only in part two, Friday the 13th part two, where he has the burlap sack and the one eye cut out. He was scary in that. None of the other ones I thought he was scary. I didn't think his mom was scary in the first one. But Michael always consistently got under my skin. He was just like this merciless, you know, the way he would look and move and the suspense that built up. Plus, I also think Halloween has more decent movies in its various timelines than either Freddy or Jason do.
Yeah.
So,
one more day till Halloween. Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
yeah.
So,
even the one without Michael is awesome.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Team vampire or team werewolf?
I'd probably go with werewolf, but I don't know exactly why.
Yeah.
I just like them more.
Yeah. Now, are you wolf-like werewolf person or a bipedal werewolf person?
I'm more bipedal for sure. And I don't know, maybe it's that there's such a huge amount of content with vampires out there already that werewolves just intrigue me more. There's not as much content. I mean, there's a good amount, you know. I could go find several movies and books to read about them, but it seems like for vampires, for every one werewolf story you find, there's 10 vampire stories.
Yeah.
And I find, so it's got a little bit more mystique to me. I don't know it as well, and I always think a cool werewolf is awesome when I come across one.
Yeah. Are you a big Dog Soldiers fan?
Yes. Oh God, that's a good movie.
Yeah, we did an episode on Dog Soldiers because me and Eric both love that movie.
I haven't seen it in forever. I need to go back to it and watch it, but it was like one of those that left me with my jaw open.
Yeah, there's actually Janine Pipe actually wrote a book, The Making of, and I read it, and it was actually fantastic to read all these thoughts behind the movie. And plus, obviously, I had seen the movie before I had read the book. But then after I'd read the book, I had watched the movie again, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that.
Right.
So the book was really fascinating. So if anybody's a Dog Soldiers fan, I highly recommend Sausages, The Making of Dog Soldiers.
I will have to check it out.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's not fiction. It's like a making of. So if you're looking for a story, there's a lot of interviews and behind the scenes pictures and stuff. But it was really cool to read.
Neat.
Yeah. So as a kid, what was your favorite horror movie?
That's an interesting question. When I was a kid, like my parents were very conservative Christian, couldn't watch anything over PG. most of the time, and certainly nothing horror. That was the devil. But I did it anyway, and uh, one of the earliest ones I remember actually getting to watch was actually at my grandmother's house shortly after my grandfather passed away. She lived about 100 yards down the road from us. And she said she wanted me to come and hang out and watch a movie with her that night because the original Psycho was coming on TV. This was back before DVDs or DVRs or anything like streaming, so we had to wait for it to come on the TV and sit through the commercials and everything. So I get there, and my parents had decided to allow that to happen because it was my grandmother, and well, that was made in like 1960, so I guess we'll allow it.
Mm.
Well, the movie starts, and it's not Psycho, it's Psycho 2. And I hadn't seen the original Psycho at that time. I was probably 9 or so. And so the movie opens up, and there's this really grisly murder. And at least in my memory, they must not have edited for content as much back then.
Yeah.
As they ended up doing later years. Because I remember the dude's face like opening up and slashes and all this stuff. And I was just like, I had never seen anything like it before. And then and maybe a lot of people don't realize this, Psycho 2 is actually a really good movie. Put Psycho out of your head and just watch it on its own. It's a good movie. And it's got some legit scares in it. So I recommend people, check it out. But that movie got under my skin. And that night I had to go back to my parents' house. Now, again, she only lived about 100 yards down the road, but in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm walking through the woods, and there's nobody out there except all the billions of little creatures I can hear screeching and croaking and everything. And it's late, and I'm making my way back, and every time I turn around, I'm seeing Norman Bates and he's wearing his mom's dress in the woods or something. And I'm freaking out. I get home, and I'm visibly shook up, and they start questioning me, and I'm trying to not tell them anything because my grandmother asked me, we can watch this, just don't tell your parents, And I'm freaking out, and I caved. I was 9 or whatever, and told them, well, it ended up being Psycho 2, and it was a lot scary. So they call my grandmother angry, and then they get mad at me. I end up on the floor in my parents' bedroom that night for sleep because I couldn't sleep in my room. And I'm laying down, and I look over, and there's the underneath of my parents' bed. Well, of course, every monster that ever was is under there. Mm-hmm. And I flip over and turn my back to them so they won't do anything. That's all you have to do. But the whole night, I can't remember how long it took me to fall asleep, but I was freaking out because of Psycho 2. And that's the first one I can remember watching.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I could just see you walking through the woods in the dark.
Oh my God. In my memory, that is just nightmare fuel.
Yeah. And things always seem more amplified and more scary when you're younger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I
remember as a kid, we were at the Smithsonian, and we walked into the undersea room, and they had like a whale hanging from the ceiling. And I remember being so terrified, but now I'm like, it's just a whale, a stuffed whale, right. So when you're young, things just get more amplified. Now, what about now as an adult? Can you pick a favorite horror movie?
Ooh, that might be difficult to pick a single favorite, but I'll give it a shot. Ones that I'll tell you this, ones that I return to very often, that I want to watch again and again, and that I don't seem to be able to get enough of. Event Horizon is one of them. And then also the original Halloween, the last 15 or 20 minutes or so, when it really starts to ramp up the suspense, even though there's almost zero gore, anything like that, it's just psychologically intense. And that one, I'm always down. Even if you just say, hey, you want to watch the last 20 minutes of Halloween? I'm going to say yes every time. And, I'm down to sit down and watch that. And the Alien is another one that I keep going back to more and more. And older I get, it's Alien, not Aliens. When I was younger, Aliens was the one I loved the most.
Right.
And as I've gotten older, they've kind of, I still love them both, but they've kind of shifted places for me. So
yeah, I love Alien versus Predator.
I loved the first one, and I know I'll get made fun of that for that, but the first one was a good time. It was fun.
Yep.
Second one, I couldn't see anything the whole time trying to watch it. I'm like turning the brightness up on my screen.
Yeah.
But my kids love it. They thought the Pred Alien was the coolest thing in the world, and so
Pred Alien.
yeah.
Now, do you watch it? Now, I don't know how old your kids are, but do you watch a lot of horror with them? Like, obviously not.
Yeah,
Like,
I do with my daughter. She's 13, and she actually grew up very scared of everything. Everything in the world scared her. I mean, if she saw a skeleton in Scooby Doo, she was freaked out for the rest of the night.
oh wow.
And the older she got, she started all of a sudden she would start asking to watch these little creepy things, like Goosebumps, the R.L. Stein show that was based on his books. And before I knew it, she was into Scream and all these others, and so we started watching horror movies together a lot. My son, once in a while, will get into it, but most of the time he's bored by scary movies. I don't know why, but he's just not into it. He'd rather watch something funny or with a bunch of action, or comic book movie or something like that. But she's into it. And my youngest, she's only like 5. She'll be 6 in a couple of months, and
oh yeah,
she doesn't. It doesn't freak her out, but she also doesn't care unless Big Sister's watching, and then she'll be like, "Oh my god, oh my god, run away! Why are you doing that? Why is that guy so mean, Daddy?"
That's funny. It's too cute. So what would be your go-to recommendation for somebody who's new to reading horror?
New to reading horror. I might say Stephen King if you're brand new to it. He's real accessible. And he kind of brought horror to the mainstream. So that him or Dean Koontz, older stuff, if you're brand new to it. Now, if you're looking for something more intense than that, Clive Barker's always a great choice, or there's a myriad of indie authors out there that are doing really good work. There's a whole lot of them doing bad work too. So you got to sift through that, but there's a really, really solid number of people out there doing good stuff. Jonathan Jans is terrific. He writes some terrific horror novels. Ray Garton, he's done a lot of vampire and werewolf and ghost story and real world horror, like human trafficking stories, and all these things that are really effective, and it's impressive watching how he'll approach each one, and he always makes it new. Like with the vampires, the garlic thing, it's an actual allergy for vampires.
Oh, nice.
And if a vampire attacks somebody who's got drugs in their system, it can affect their body.
Them.
And then like with the werewolves, it's spread as a sexually transmitted disease. So these people get bitten, but they can't spread it by just, any old way. It's like they got to have sex with somebody or rape them or something, something terrible. And so that's how it spreads throughout everything. And it just gets like more and more twisted. So I liked his approaches to some of those things that were unique and something fresh. And he definitely, I don't know if I'd say he goes extreme on the horror side, but he goes extreme with the eroticism. He really brings the eroticism into it. It gets hot and heavy. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I have Lot Lizards by Garton. I haven't read it yet. I say that about most books that I have. I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yep. I do that a lot.
Yeah. Now, do you have a favorite horror novel or book or?
Um, I do. It's probably for a horror novel. I would probably go with Cold Heart Canyon by Clive Barker.
Clive Barker?
Really, really amazing. The writing, the story, the characters, the way it's structured, and then the way it all comes together in the end. It's got the eroticism and it's got the graphic horror, but it's also got some deeply human story in it that's so moving. It's just the in the way only Clive Barker can do it. He's the only person I know that can write really extreme horror in an accessible way that virtually anybody could get, could read.
Yeah.
And if I was going to pick just a favorite novel of all time, I might go with East of Eden by John Steinbeck. That book just slays me.
Nice. So you write, I haven't read a lot of your work. I've read, obviously, I just finished The Damned Place. Loved it
Thank you.
so much, so much. And I read, is it Naomi? The one you wrote about the woman who wanted her best friend's life.
Oh, Miranda.
Miranda. I'm like, I gotta remember that title,
Yeah.
and I got it on Kindle, so I didn't have a physical copy to have in my hand, to pull it out and get and they're two. So those two I wouldn't consider extreme, but then you have your splatter western Dust. So do you prefer one subgenre of horror to write in over the other, or do you just go where your stories take you? And I've heard you're In the House. Is that what
the
other one that just came out is
that
pretty
one's
extreme?
That one's really extreme. I in my approach, it's just kind of wherever it takes me. I don't usually go into it thinking, all right, this is going to be an extreme horror story. If I'm writing a horror story, I write crime and comedy and just suspense in general, but cyberpunk. I've done all sorts of stuff, but when I'm writing a horror story, I don't go into it saying this is going to be extreme horror. I just kind of follow it where it's going to go. Now, that said, I didn't even know what extreme horror was when I started writing. I'd never heard the term. And I put out The Damn Place, and people were saying I'm writing extreme horror, and I was like, "What's extreme about it?" And
yeah.
The Damn Place, I guess there's a couple of scenes that go kind of far, and that's what they were referring to. But it's not like the whole novel is extreme. And when I was writing, I was like, "Yeah, I want to push the envelope a little bit, but let's just see where I feel like that's a good place to, rein it in." And because I do think you can go too far sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Depending on the story and the way you're telling it, the prose and all that. So you got to know your audience. And so I was getting labeled extreme horror author, and I was like, well, I don't want to be pigeonholed into a niche. I want to be, I write Chris Miller stories. I don't write extreme horror stories. And so I went on a quest for a while and started writing all sorts of stuff that wasn't extreme. Some of it wasn't even horror at all. And just to try to establish myself as like, I'm not a one-trick pony. But then I had this old story called In the House. It was about a home invasion, and I had written it when I started writing it. I knew I was going to have a home invasion story, and then I got to a certain point and I realized, oh wow, there's about to be this really extreme situation take place, and it takes place in graphic detail over about 2 chapters on every page, and it's just brutal. And it was hard for me to finish writing. When I did, I felt like I needed a bath, and it came out in a couple of anthologies, actually 2 or 3, but like 4 people read each one of them, so virtually nobody knew about it. And I was like, I had the rights back, and I started putting out some chapbooks, little little small trim chapbooks, and did this one. I wrote a completely new ending for it, and I said, well, we're just going to lean into the extreme on this one. I've already had the elements there that were making it extreme, so I just went all the way with it in the rewrite, and made something pretty ghastly out of it. But yeah, I prefer, if I'm writing anything, I just prefer writing suspense,
Okay.
and that's probably present in all my work. Like The Damn Place is a suspenseful story, even though it's still horror and all these other things coming of age. But the thing that actually maintains the intensity throughout the story is the suspense, probably not the monsters, not the anything else going on.
Yeah.
So, but that's my favorite thing to write, is just suspense, intense action sequences, things like that. And if I have a chance to throw in something new, or I see an angle for something that might be a little extreme, but it works in this context, I'll lean into that.
Yeah. So it's Dubtown Blues, right? Is
Yeah,
your crime.
that's
Tell
the
us a
newest
little,
one.
yeah, tell us about your crime books, because I'm sure a lot of people know you as Chris Miller, the horror author, or the
Right.
extreme horror author.
Yeah. So I've got Dubtown Blues is my most recent novel to come out. And that one is a murder mystery thriller suspense novel, small town suspense. Jeff Strand read it, and that's how he described it, was small town suspense, and that's probably the best way of packaging it. But so that one is actually inspired by true events. It's set here in my hometown of Winsboro, based on some events that happened years ago when I was younger. And I took those events and I fictionalized them, and then had them connected, which they were never connected in real life, and built this story about an aging lawman who was looking at his mortality and realized there were some things he needed to set right before he was gone from this world. And that's the real focus of the story. All the mystery and the murders and the stuff like that, that's background noise, or not background noise, but it's the backdrop to the real story, which is about this man who's facing his death. And as he's doing this, he's telling us this story from 30 years ago. And then it'll cut back to, today, as he's preparing to go and confront who he thinks was behind all of this. And it leads up to that, and then takes a few twists and turns and goes crazy. And then there's The Hard Goodbye, which was the second novel I released, which is also a crime story, but it's very different. It's what I call batshit crime.
Batshit crime.
Yeah, it's more like in the vein of Fargo, but you have to turn the lights out all the way. It's so dark. It's more just crazy. There's no good guys whatsoever. Everybody in it is a scumbag to some level.
Oh, wow.
Just varying degrees. There's zero good people, and they're either a thief, a murderer, something, crooked cop. I mean, you name it. And that one, it's a lot of fun, but it is pitch black, and that's something I've gotten on multiple reviews. Like, one guy said, Chris Miller takes the idea of dark fiction and just turns the lights all the way off.
Nice.
So that one's a lot of fun, and it opens on a torture scene, like a really brutal torture scene. And so some people might say that one leans into a little bit extreme on the violence. I still don't think it does. I've read As Bad from King and Kuntz before, but I guess everybody views things differently. But that's another one. I've got several shorter stories and novellas that are crime, and my next book is actually going to be a cross between crime and cosmic horror.
Ooh.
So that's going to be fun. Yeah.
Wow. Sign me
It's
up
going to
for
be
that.
like Reservoir Dogs meets The Mist.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I'm in.
Yeah. I'm hoping it turns out as well as it is up here right now. If I can
Right.
just get this out it's going to be great.
Yeah. And will you have at Texas AuthorCon, are you going to have like your crime books and your horror books
Yeah,
all with you?
I'll have some of both. I'm not sure if I'm going to have everything because getting a hold of some of these publishers to buy my books from is proving difficult.
Oh boy.
But the ones that I've self-published, I can easily get
Those are
those.
easily
Yeah,
attainable, yeah.
yeah. But the
Yeah.
ones I've done through publishing houses, like The Damned Place, The Damned Ones, Dust, uh, The Hard Goodbye is another one. Those I have to get in touch with somebody and pay them extra money and then wait. And last time I tried, ended up waiting like 2 months
Oh,
to
that's a
get
pain.
anything in. So I'm hoping I
So,
can get them in time.
yeah. Well, I'll probably end up buying them then and bringing them with me and have you sign them. That way I
Cool.
don't have to worry. Because
I can definitely do that.
yeah, I definitely want a copy of Dust because I got to read The Damned Ones next and then I'll read Dust.
Yeah.
Um,
Unofficial part 3.
yeah. Yeah, and you know what you were saying about people labeling you as an extreme horror author. I really think it's important for people to not label authors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I actually had this conversation with Carver Pike. He's like, "Do you think I'm an extreme horror author?" I'm like, "No, you're an author. Your series, Diablo Snuff, is an extreme horror series. Your other books are horror. You know, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't label the author. I label the book.
Right.
You know, and it's really awesome when an author can write in multiple genres, not just subgenres of horror. Like I
Right.
love it. Like I don't know if you know, but Carver Pike writes
Mm-hmm.
erotica and romance. You know, he's got his other pen names, so I just think it's fascinating. Not saying I don't love an author that only writes in one genre, but
Yeah.
I read pretty much anything. You know, if it sounds interesting, I'll read it. So
Yeah.
that's great. Now, when you're writing, when you're in the zone and you're sitting down and I'm going to finish this story, this book, whatever, do you have certain music you like to listen to get you motivated?
No, and I've noticed a lot of people do. I don't. It's like if I listen to something, especially if it's got lyrics, I can't do it. I'll start writing lyrics in the middle of what I'm writing. Yeah, because I just get too much into what I'm listening to. I love listening to music. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I can do it while I'm writing. And then I've tried instrumental stuff, and that has been a little bit more successful, but I don't know that it actually helped me accomplish anything
No.
specific for the work I was working on. I was listening to like the Batman versus Superman soundtrack, which I think is great soundtrack, wonderful scores, and there's a lot of really exciting and dark feeling to that score, and I was able to write with it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't know that I would have written anything different if I just had done it in silence. So it's not really part of my process one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that a lot too because I prefer complete silence when I
Yeah.
write.
Yeah.
I can't have the TV on, I can't have a radio on. I have to have complete silence. So I get where you're coming from. Um, do you have any new projects you're working on? I mean, obviously you don't have to give a lot of details, but just some kind of like I know you
Yeah.
mentioned that one about the cosmic horror
The Crime
meets
and Cosmic. Well, yeah,
crime and crime.
I haven't actually started that one yet, but it is the next full novel I plan to start. But I am working on. I'm finishing up it's technically an author's preferred version, but I'm calling it a director's cut of The Sons of Thunder, which was a novel I wrote. It's a cyberpunk slash splatterpunk. It's not horror at all, but it's bloody as all get out.
Mm.
And it's we wrote it for Cerberus exploitation, which all of 4 people in the world read, and we couldn't understand it. You know, everybody loved Cerberus Rising, and it didn't get a whole lot of readership either. But exploitation really just nobody picked it up, and we had 3 novels in there. Each of us wrote a novel, and it was like, you know, these deserve to be read. So Patrick went ahead and put out his novel, Vampire Nuns Behind Bars,
Oh, okay.
And they're all grindhouse exploitation stories, set in a cyberpunk post-apocalyptic future.
Wow.
And Mike sort of came up with the framework for that world, and then Patrick and I each took our own little liberties with it to expand it a little bit. But I'm working on that one. It should be ready soon. It should have been ready already, but I've been jumping around getting little small projects done and out of my way, and just trying to get through everything I've got going. There's that. I'm working on. I just got the edits back from Down and Out Books, who are publishing Waking Up the Devil, which is my next crime book. It's another batshit crime.
Okay.
Balls to the wall from page 1 to the last page. It never lets up. Super suspenseful, super gory, super funny, super just fun. And so I should have the edits done for that one this week, and it's coming out in August, I think. And then Patrick C. Harrison III, and I wrote a script for an original splatter western. Patrick was the one that came up with the whole idea of the splatter western to begin with when he was at Death's Head Press, and that series took off, and now he's not working there anymore. He's freed himself up to do more writing. We wrote a movie script for a splatter western, but it's a completely original. It's not an adaptation of any of the books that are out. And we've been showing it to a couple of indie directors and stuff. But we decided we're also going to do a novelization of it. So that's something we're going to be working on soon. He's constantly complaining that I've been putting it off for months. And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm trying to catch up and get everything out of my way so I can focus on it and not have 15 projects pulling my head in different directions. But anyway, that's coming up soon. I don't know how fast we'll get the book actually done, but we are looking at trying to get Justin T. Coons to do the cover for us again, like he did on the first season for Death's Head Press. And so we'll see if we can get him or not. But that's most of what I've got going. I'm in a couple of anthologies, but I don't have any kind of release dates or anything coming out.
Yeah.
So
cool. Nah, sounds like you're keeping busy anyways,
trying to.
Yeah. Now, do you have a favorite book that you've put out? Like if you had to pick one of your own books, like which one are you the most proud of that you like the best?
It would probably be between Dubtown Blues and The Damn Place.
Okay.
I really enjoyed, because both of those have the they don't rush things. They're fast paced in a way, but at the same time they take their time to tell a story about the town and the people in the town, everything, not just the plot. It's not just focused on the plot, it's focused on the whole atmosphere and history and all of that. And I really enjoyed getting into the characters really deeply in those books. And so definitely for horror, I would say The Damn Place. And it's a toss up to whether or not I really think Dubtown is better. I think it's as good, at least.
Really? I'll have to read it and give you my opinion on which one I like better.
Awesome.
But I really did like in The Damn Place where you took that time in the beginning to introduce each of the characters. And that, that you had the chapter of the bullies, and you introduced Freddie and Honey and all of them individually. And I thought that was great. I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have to agree. Even though I haven't read all of your stuff, I think The Damn Place, it's honestly a top read for me this year.
Thank you.
If anybody's watching this, definitely pick up The Damn Place because it was phenomenal.
Thank you.
So yeah. So you can, all of your stuff can be found on Amazon, right?
Yes. Except the Merchant series as of right now. Is a 1950s style private eye who's getting caught up in these noir style mysteries that always end up with monsters and things involved. That's only on Godless. There's 6 stories.
Okay.
They range from a short story to novelette, which is just a long short story, basically. But there's 6 of those right now. I am looking at compiling those soonish and going to release them all in one book and put it on Amazon and everything. But as of yet, I don't have the time to do it right now. Got too much other things going on. So you can get them on godless.com right now. And they're all, I think, 50 cents or 75 cents a piece. So
yeah,
it's next to nothing to get all of them. I promise you I'm going to charge you more on Amazon. So
yeah, right. Get them on Godless now while you can, folks.
Yeah.
So you'll be at Texas AuthorCon. Do you do a lot of events like this? I know from what I've heard, there's not a lot of stuff like that out in your area.
I do as much as I can that I can afford and have the time to do. I am a single dad, so I've got 3 kids, and I have them 50% of the time, week to week. So, first of all, I have to find events that are happening on weeks where I won't have them with me, and where I can afford to do it, and within a certain distance where I can either drive or fly cheaply. But I mean, I've done, probably a dozen events over the last few years, and maybe a couple more than that. And I enjoy doing them. There's one that comes here to Winsboro. I say comes here, it's based here, the Winsboro Festival of Books, and it's coming out next month. I always try to do that when it's local. It's right here in my hometown, and meet the local author kind of thing. And then now that Texas AuthorCon's come up, I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of these, and KillerCon too, where you don't really sell a lot of books, but you sure can make a lot of good connections and socializing and the networking and everything.
That's what I've heard about KillerCon.
You're not going to sell a ton, but you can definitely network like crazy at that one.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I want to get to, is KillerCon.
Yeah.
But it's in the same month as Texas AuthorCon. It's like the next weekend, I think, or is it in August?
No, it's in August. Yeah,
it's in August, right? So like that's too close. And I was just at AuthorCon in Virginia.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Patrick and I were talking. I mean, we both want to do the Scares to Care AuthorCon. That is a huge distance from us.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was looking it up. It was like something like 17, 18 hours drive. But then I don't want to fly with a bag of books, and I don't want to ship a bunch of books somewhere and have to go pick them up, all that. So it's like, if I'm going to do it, I want to drive. And we're talking about, we might try to road trip it together and split a table. And
yeah, that would be cool.
Next year, so
yeah, Eric drove, and I think he said it ended up taking him like 24 hours to drive.
Holy cow.
Yeah, because he had to stop. He was driving by himself.
Yeah.
And I was getting worried for him because we got there Thursday, and I'm like, oh, I haven't heard from Eric. Has he made it?
Yeah.
And then I turned around and he was there, and I'm like, oh, thank God. I was getting worried. I was getting ready to call you or text you or something. Find out where you were.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the questions we have. It's been awesome talking to you.
Dude, thank you.
And like we said, you can see Chris at Texas AuthorCon, July 13th and 14th, in Richardson, Texas, I believe. I don't know why I can never remember.
I think it's Richardson.
Yeah.
It's the Dallas area.
Yeah. So great. So yeah. Until next time.